How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with Alex and Ryan. Now, Ryan just came back from Tampa yesterday, I believe, and then today he went to Yankee Stadium to try out all the new concession food, and I can tell you what, the guy couldn't even get through all of it. It was so much food, but it looked fantastic. I'm sure he'll have some great things to tell you about it, but we want to do a little roundabout because we haven't recorded in a couple days, and I feel like a lot's happened since then, Ryan. I feel like Ben Rice is starting to show himself. I think Jason Dominguez is looking like, the guy that we know he could, and he's starting to heat up. And Cody Bellinger has been red freaking hot. There's an ongoing game right now. By the time you guys watch this, that 1 p.m. game will be over, and this is a 6:35 p.m. game tonight. Wanted to get a little bit of content out in between them, but lots going on. The offense is clicking right now. Some of these batters are starting to heat up ahead of the season. We have some pitching updates and obviously some discussion there as well. But Ryan, before we dive into that, how you doing today, my friend? How was Tampa, and how was the food this morning?
Yeah, there is a lot going on in Yankee land, and first and foremost, Tampa was a phenomenal experience. There's a ton of minor league content I'm going to be getting out in the next couple of days with film and kind of some breakdowns and talk about things that we've been hearing from the minor league camps. That's some stuff that is a little more exclusive, which is great. I can't wait to deliver that to the fans. The food was phenomenal. I seriously did not think I was going to get full as fast as I did, but I did, and it was totally worth it. I have no regrets outside of I just wish I could like replay the entire experience. Like, you should go back in time, empty stomach, walk back in and do it all over again. But as it regards to the New York Yankees, Alex, the Yankees are definitely in a weird spot pitching wise, because not only do we have obviously Garrett Cole's Tommy John surgery, Luis Seal's high grade lat strain, but now we know that Clark Schmidt is behind schedule and is not likely to be built up to be ready for when the team flies north to New York and then plays on April 3rd, which is slated to be Clark Schmidt's first start. Or at least that's what their plan was. If you guys remember, the original plan was Garrett Cole game 1, Garrett Cole game 5, Clark Schmidt game 6. That is completely eroded in the last few weeks. It's kind of just an onslaught of bad news for the Yankees. But, this is where you need guys to step up. This is where you need guys to kind of show up and show out. And these are the opportunities that some of the pitchers on this roster were not rooting for, but waiting for, if that makes sense, or preparing for. Now you're going to see Carlos Carrasco and Clark Schmidt likely make this rotation. Obviously, Marcus Stroman was kind of a lock the second Luis Seal went down, because he's someone with guaranteed money on his salary at $18 million. I think we're not going to DFA him before figuring out what he was, and understandably so. I'm not going to blame them for that one. I think, honestly, as things stand right now, their rotation is best, obviously with Clark Schmidt's back, with Warren as the 5 over Carrasco, but that opt-out date throws an interesting wrinkle in all of this. Even with that opt-out date, I've stated this on Twitter, I've stated on the podcast, I fully believe Will Warren as the 5th starter makes the most sense, but thankfully we'll get to put that theory a little bit to the test in April and get a little bit of time to see, is that actually the right call? Is Warren ready? Is Carrasco as good as he's looked in spring? I just trust Warren's gains a lot more than I trust Carrasco's. But again, that's just my opinion. We'll have to wait and see there. And then obviously with the way that some of these guys have been hitting, I mean, I've said this time and time again, do not show me Ben Rice's batting average. Show me what Ben Rice is doing under the hood. Show me what Ben Rice is doing. Yeah, now you can show. See, now the people were like, well, what's he hitting in spring training? I don't care what his average exit velocity is. Well, now the average exit velocity is there, and the guy's got really strong numbers this spring. Again, I don't really care that his OPS is high. There are so many guys with high OPSs in spring training who will not amount to anything. But I think it is a real deal, or it is a big deal, that he's hitting the ball as hard as he's hitting it. Every single day, I feel like we find Ben Rice hitting a ball 110 miles an hour. And that type of consistent raw power is going to allow him to be a productive big league hitter. And again, I care about that so much more than I care about raw results. So, Alex, I know that's a lot of things I just kind of threw out there, but rotation, definitely an interesting thing that they're going to have to figure out over the next few weeks. And Ben Rice, certainly an interesting hitter who can make some of these question marks kind of, or give you a little more optimism about the season as things stand right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, the Will Warren and Carlos Carrasco debacle is annoying to deal with, but the Yankees have been shredded with the injuries lately with Garrett Cole, Luis Seal, and they're even talking about Clark Schmidt even possibly landing on the IL too, because they don't even think he can build up to 75, 80 pitches by the time April 3rd rolls around. And if he can't throw 75 to 80 pitches, why is he starting? And I think maybe they want to give him a little bit of extra time. They can put him on the 10-day IL, keep him on the 40-man roster, and then open up that roster spot in the rotation for Will Warren to play. Obviously, the changes to the minor league options is a whole year, as you've referenced in the past. So they can send Will Warren down. They can bring him back. They can do all sorts of things with him. But this is about control, right? They want to make sure they don't lose Carlos Carrasco because they've built up with him. He's looked pretty solid this spring. His velocity's ticking a little bit higher. And the truth of the matter is, they just want to maximize the value that he's going to give them because he's basically next to no cost. He's here on a minor league invite. He has an opt-out on March 22nd. I bet you that he's going to be on the roster, and I think they're going to IL Clark Schmidt too for 10 days. Let him ramp up a little bit slower, and that way they can use Will Warren in the meantime. They'll send Will Warren back to AAA. Clark Schmidt will come back, and Carrasco, I genuinely think he's going to hit a wall pretty early in the season. He's 37 years old. His best days are years behind him now. And I think that he will probably fall into that number 6 role, if not even come out of the bullpen. It's possible that he falls into a bullpen spot and the Yankees just have him ready to go, or he goes back to AAA and he just keeps pitching as a starter, and the Yankees, look, at some point there's going to be an injury, right? There's some point he's going to have to play more. So, or even Warren will be in that capacity. So they're just trying to keep their pitchers that they have currently, and there is ways to manipulate that. But I think that Warren and Carrasco will probably start the season in the rotation because Clark Schmidt should head to the IL if he's not built up to be a starter. You don't want to run that risk right now with that many injuries piling up. You just can't run the risk of him pitching too much, or what's the point of him tossing 60 pitches if he's not ready yet? So that's kind of my perspective. When it comes to Ben Rice, all the people saying, well, look at his batting average. It's 283 right now. He has a 365 OBP, a 609 slugging rate. So if you're worried about his batting average, no reason to be concerned because he has one of the best in the team right now in spring training, and it's been picking up fast. Today already in the game, 3 runs. He has a homer, an RBI, and 2 walks over 3 at-bats, more like 5 at-bats because he let off today, so the 2 walks don't count, just plate appearances. But this is a guy who's hitting the absolute bejesus out of the ball, man. The extra weight he's putting behind it, they're equaling home runs. They're not shots into the gap. They're not singles. They're not fly balls. They're not outs. They are home runs, and he's lasering them over the freaking fence. This is a player who's going to probably fill the DH spot for you, and I have to say, with Paul Goldschmidt dealing with this kind of back situation that he got pulled a couple days ago, he said it's not a big deal. But you want to be careful about that. You want to be cautious when it comes to those back injuries, especially at 37 years old. So having Ben Rice capable of stepping in and playing first base for you and filling the DH spot and being a backup catcher, I think Escaro will make the roster too. But I think that's very, very encouraging. So, looking at the value he brings utility-wise, Ryan, and we talk about the bat, but he can be your DH, he can be your first baseman, and he can be your backup catcher if need be. If Escaro fills a DH spot for a day and you have Ben Rice as, filling the catcher, whatever, they can be a little bit more creative with how they deploy him. And he's kind of a unique utility man. He's not like an outfielder or like an infielder. Like he plays a couple of unique positions. How much value do you think that brings to the team?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly valuable to have someone who is both capable of catching, playing first base, DHing, et cetera, et cetera. I think that the Yankees, again, can throw out some unique lineups, unique combinations, and kind of figure out how to best optimize themselves offensively. Again, I think they need a right-handed hitter. I think they're relying on too many lefties or too many guys who are worse from the left-handed side as switch hitters to generate offense against left-handed pitching. I don't think it's going to go very well for them. I think that's going to result in a lot of, ugly games against southpaws. And it's not to say the Yankees are, doomed if they face a lefty, but in the postseason, for sure, I definitely believe your team and you're starting, again, a Garrett Crochet, a Shane McClanahan, one of those guys that, you feel like you can beat the Yankees and that it's not going to take much to shut them down for 6-7 innings. So, you have to, and I truly mean have to, acquire right-handed bat. That's really the buzz down in Tampa as to that was the buzz down in Tampa in terms of moves the Yankees are looking to do. They really want to get a right-handed bat. They're actively and aggressively shopping for one. Will they end up getting one? We'll have to wait and see, but I think that that's something that they absolutely have to do. Whether they do or don't, again, that's something that people can talk about in the comment section. I'm simply mentioning what I think they have to do. I also would like to add in regards to the offense, seeing a lot of positive signs from Dominguez is great. He's hitting the ball hard as well. I know that hitting the ball hard is something I mention a lot, but a lot of what I really like about the young guys the Yankees have started to incorporate in their lineup, whether that's Austin Wells last year, or Jason Dominguez this year, or Ben Rice this year, it's their ability to hit the ball hard and control the strike zone. Those are skills that have really high ceilings. Like, those are the highest ceiling profiles for any hitter in baseball. If you got power and a good understanding of the strike zone, the upside is kind of limitless. Like, I mean, I can go up and down with the best hitters in the game, and they all kind of share those two traits in some regard or some shape or form. If you look at the 2024 season and you sort by WRC plus, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Juan Soto, Yordan Alvarez. I mean, the guy with the worst plate discipline in this group is probably Shohei. And even then, he is 30.5% O swing rate, 70.5% in zone swing rate. He was very aggressive in zone. He knew the pitches he could hit. If you want to extend beyond that, Bobby Witt Jr. has an excellent feel for the strike zone. Yes, he chases at times, but he's also swinging aggressively. And that's not, I think people confuse that with bad plate discipline. I think that can be good plate discipline, swinging at hittable pitches. That's part of understanding the zone. Brent Rooker, 9.6% walk rate last year, 39 home runs. There wasn't a single hitter in the top 12 in WRC plus for qualified hitters who didn't hit at least 30 home runs. You have to go to Mookie Betts, who played 116 games, to find a non-30 home run hitter in the top 14. If you go to 15th, Jurickson Profar, 24 home runs. That's still quite a good bit. 11.4% walk rate. Seiya Suzuki, 21 home runs, but only played 132 games. Lindor, 33 home runs. Freeman, 22 home runs. Freeman has a 12.2% walk rate. Schwarber, 38 home runs and 15.3% walk rate. Like, I'm just listing the best hitters in baseball by WRC plus. You very rarely find a hitter who doesn't have at least average power to go with really good or a good understanding of the strike zone. The only exception to this has kind of been like Steven Kwan, and Alex loves Steven Kwan. Alex, has always loved Steven Kwan, but we understand that Steven Kwan is an anomaly in terms of contact rates. So, you want to roster guys who do those two things well. And the Yankees have done a good job of acquiring those players. But the one guy that's kind of surprised me with their power early on is Cody Bellinger. Like, he's hitting the crap out of the ball. Alex, are you how excited are you to watch Cody Bellinger in 2025? And what do you think his impact could be in a lineup that is trying to and will probably fail to replace Juan Soto's production?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because it feels like Cody Bellinger's this secret weapon right now because, you can't replace Juan Soto, and it feels like we lost Soto and we didn't replace him. But people forget that Bellinger is one of the best hitters in the game. For a long time, he has been one of the best. And his seamless approach at the plate, his swing, he's just fun to watch. It's just enjoyable to watch his mechanics, watch him ball. And he offers, obviously, an exponentially better defense than Juan Soto. And by no means am I saying he's going to be better or even close to as good as Juan Soto. What I will say is this is going to be a lot better than a 109 WRC plus guy that we saw last year. And what that means is he was 9% above average last season, but that is below his average. That is below his standard. And he would have hit 6 more home runs in Yankee Stadium last year compared to what he did in Wrigley Field. So, add the home runs. This guy could hit 30 home runs for you this year. He's going to get on base. He can run the base as well, and he's going to play great defense for you. So, yeah, he's not going to replace Juan Soto, but he's going to eat into it. He's going to get a lot more production, in my opinion. And I'll say this, the way that I've seen him seamlessly walk into this clubhouse and suddenly feels like he's a leader there. And I like that about Bellinger. He just has that leadership vibe and aura about him. I don't think it's crazy to say that if he has a really good season, the Yankees may consider extending Cody Bellinger, and they may be able to get him at a vastly cheaper cost compared to Kyle Tucker. And I think they will go after Kyle Tucker, and they're going to consider Vladdy. We heard the quote today, and Vladdy's like, I'll talk to the Yankees. But I wouldn't rule out the idea of the Yankees keeping Bellinger because he wants to be a Yankee. He has for a long time, and the Yankees love guys who want to be there. right? If there's anything they learned about Juan Soto, he didn't really want to be there. He went to the Mets, and he basically made it apparent that he wanted to be a Met. So I think the Yankees appreciate the fact that Judge is like, he's all about New York. He turned down less money to stay. And if Bellinger's ready to sign a deal or whatever it might be and they want to keep him, I wouldn't rule it out long term if he has a very, very good season, barring injury and all that stuff. But I really am impressed with Bellinger so far. He's giving me leadership vibes. He's hitting the ball excellent. I mean, another home run today, 2-run blast. He's making great contact. He's pulling the ball to right field. Yeah, I know, Ryan, I know you love guys that pull the ball, put it in the air, pull it, that equals home runs most of the time. He's a solid base runner. He's a savvy veteran, and we've already seen his savviness defensively. Not to mention, he can play first base for you if you need it. You don't really want him to because, at this point you have Ben Rice, and he can play first, and that means Bellinger is kind of obsolete there, but he's going to give you, I will say this, his upside is Gold Glove level defense in the outfield. I don't expect it, but I expect above average defense in the outfield, and that's an element we haven't had in center field in quite some time, right? The last time we saw like solid defense there, I think Aaron Hicks was patrolling there a couple of years ago. We were like, that's a good defender there, and he was pretty solid, had good range, but wasn't like the best athlete in the world. I think Bellinger's a better athlete than Aaron Hicks, and I think that he is just a solid all-around good player, and he wants to be a Yankee. His lineage is here, it runs in his blood. So I really think that Bellinger's been an awesome addition. I'm really excited to see his year, but talk to me about one, we're talking about a guy that's like a prominent piece on this team. How about one that we have never heard of? How about one that you guys watching this podcast or listening right now have probably never heard of? Ismael Munguia. This is my dog now. This is my guy. I freaking love this guy. He has struck out one time this spring, and he's getting on base at a stupendous clip. He's a good defender. He's an outfielder. It's going to be tough for him to make this roster. But Ryan, tell me about him. He's a Nicaraguan. This is a guy that's been fighting his way up to the majors. He is a contact specialist, but he's got some underrated power a little bit. Excellent defensive piece. He's with the Giants for years. Do you think there's a way for him to make an impact or at least fight his way onto this roster? I wish he played third base because he probably would have won that job. He's a lefty. I really like this player. I don't think he's going to make the team, unfortunately, but he has a very unique set of skills. If he was Liam Neeson, man, I'd be scared.
So when it comes to Munguia, I mean, look, the lack of raw power is obviously something that's going to limit his ceiling, but defense, contact, and plate discipline, that's still a profile that can work at any level. It's a question of how legit the bat is in the upper levels of the minor leagues. He hit really well in Double-A with the Giants, but slowed down a little bit in Triple-A. Can he make that adjustment? Can he make that flip? Can he kind of stick at that level? It's not like he's super old either. I know that 26 isn't young, but it's not like he's entering his age 26 season. This isn't a player who's like, grandpa. Maybe he's a grandpa in terms of like prospects, but I mean, we've seen guys blossom a lot later than he has. It's certainly a good ballpark fit based on the fact that Yankee Stadium will help a player who can pull the ball in the air, but it could also kind of work to his detriment because Yankee Stadium is a place that has always been, less favorable to the high average left-handed hitter. It's partially kind of the conversation we had about Luis Ariz, but also, again, just kind of also admitting that right field at Yankee Stadium upticks a guy's game power at times. Is it a situation where, yes, he hits for a lower average with the Yankees, but he hits for more power, and that's a more sustainable way of generating offense? Totally up, it's totally a possibility. And then again, like just the ability to make so much contact, is his ability to make contact such an outlier that he can make it work regardless? Because that's also a question. Because if he can, then yeah, like all the things I just talked about with, how Yankee Stadium doesn't really play well for slap hitters, left-handed slap hitters. You kind of go, all right, well, it's not the best ballpark for him, but it'll work in spite of it. It's like I wouldn't sit here and say Steven Kwan can't hit at Yankee Stadium. I'd say that Yankee Stadium isn't the best fit for his profile, but if he were to play 162 games with the Yankees, he'd still be Steven Kwan. That's kind of what you have to. That's kind of where it'll be fun to see if Munguia is able to really hit at the AAA level, and then kind of see if injuries shake themselves out and a roster spot kind of comes free for him. I want to get one more note in on Bellinger. Now, Bellinger's averaging 93.1 miles per hour in terms of average exit velocity. That's well up from last season, and the sample size keeps growing. Today, you mentioned that absolute bomb he hit. But the metric I find the most interesting here is in his 90th percentile exit velocity. Now, 90th percentile exit velocity is taking that top 10%, like your hardest hit balls, and kind of grouping them together and averaging them out. And Bellinger's at 103.5 in spring training. He was in that 101 range in the regular season last year. Like, that's a pretty sizable uptick because the league average is, I think, around 103 as well. And exit velocity has been something that Bellinger's kind of struggled with. I really do find it fascinating that he's swinging harder and hitting harder. Those are things that are always going to be interesting to me. I always want to kind of throw out caution. There's no way to truly know if this is going to stick or not until the regular season begins. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Bellinger is now just going to like average 90 miles an hour exit velocity, and his raw power is uptick notably. Like it has in spring training. Will it during the 2025 season? I don't know. And then that's going to kind of be how I feel about any velo uptick, even for Ben Rice. Like, I mean, he's hit his 5 hardest hit balls in spring training. It's almost so good, or he's almost been so good that I'm questioning whether, like, he's been so good that I don't, like, I'm kind of nervous that, like, I'm going to get set up to fail. Like, maybe every StatCast machine is broken. I mean, that's almost the territory I've reached with Rice, where it's like, it's kind of unbelievable how good he's been in that regard. And just to pull up this piece of data here, because I was looking for the actual average, Cody Bellinger's 90th percentile exit velocity would have graded out right around the league average this past season based on his spring training numbers. In 2024, it was in the 20th percentile. And you talk about the ballpark change, playing Yankee Stadium. You talk about playing away from Wrigley, which is super windy and, was a just kind of hell on earth if you were a position player trying to generate offense or hit home runs. There is a lot to be excited about for a version of Cody Bellinger who's maybe hitting the ball a little harder and still like, all right, I'm going to hit the ball in the air. I'm going to hit home runs. And as you mentioned, I'm going to play a premium position in center field and maybe play it at a high level. Harrison Bader is the kind of, like, we all forget, really good defender that played for the Yankees in center, but he wasn't a very good hitter at all. And so I don't think he kind of scratched the itch for a lot of fans the way that you'd kind of want him to. Hicks was the closest thing to you're getting some defense or you're getting some offense out of this profile player. But again, like the prime was too short, the injuries were too frequent, and the center field defense eroded almost as quickly as, like, it eroded a lot faster than the offense did. He was a below average center fielder defensively by 2018, 2019. Like, it did not last very long for him. If Bellinger is, again, like a +3, +4 outs of average guy and has a 120 to 125 WRC plus, that's a super valuable player. You're hoping he opts out, not because you don't want to have him come back at all, because it means he had a good year. But that also, as you mentioned, brings up the interesting question of, if he has a really good year and ends up opting out, do the Yankees bring him back? I still would prefer Kyle Tucker. I think Kyle Tucker is an MVP caliber player and will continue to believe that. And it would take a lot for Cody Bellinger to make me not feel that way. But I still think he's capable of big things, and I'm still hopeful that a lot of what we've seen in spring training translates to the regular season. He's not going to hit 500. He's not going to win the MVP. He's not going to do any of that stuff. But can he hit the ball harder and keep pulling it in the air? Because if he does that, he's going to hit like 30 home runs, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot to like about Bellinger and what he offers this team. But, in addition to that, just some quick notes that I can recall. JC Escara kicking butt again. I mean, he's going to win that backup catcher job. I think that's a consensus now. Oswaldo Cabrera has won the third base job. Oswald Peraza is on the outs. I'd say the Yankees are actively trying to replace Peraza with what we've been hearing from Cashman. He wants a right-handed bat to platoon with Cabrera at third base. Peraza cannot be that guy. He has been horrible this spring. I don't think it's crazy to say that we're just being like negative. I think it's just reality. Like he has zero power. He's not hitting the ball well. He's putting the ball on the ground too much. He's just not there offensively. And it's just been too much time to see what he can be. So I think that the Yankees will ultimately move on from Peraza moving forward, and they will try to replace him. If they can't, he'll be on the roster until they find a replacement, but his days are numbered in my opinion. Pitching wise, Stroman looked phenomenal today. Had great movement on his pitches, was dotting the I's and crossing the T's, so we love to see that from Stroman, who's ramping up nicely. In addition to that, I know Mark Leiter Jr. said if the season started today, he'd be ready to go, which was very encouraging. I think Schmidt has a bullpen session, a live session for tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that they're ramping him up and seeing where he is. What else? Offensively, Jason Dominguez, we didn't discuss him, but we'll talk about him in another episode because there's a lot to say. He's been absolutely crushing the baseball, and his power's starting to show up, and his batting average is elevated. He looks fantastic. He's starting to really heat up. A lot of these batters are, after kind of shaking off the rust of the offseason. So lots to like from the youngsters. A lot of youngsters really, really showing up here. Jason, Ben, Ascara, Volpe's been looking better as of late. Lots of players really, really showcasing what they can do. Jazz Chisholm dominated today. He had 2 hits, 3 RBIs, and a home run. He's been kind of struggling this spring, but he's starting to get there. So, there's lots to like, lots of positives aside from some injuries, but everything else looks pretty good, guys. If you have anything you want us to discuss specifically, any players you want us to break down in future episodes, please let us know in the YouTube comment section. As always, my friends, make sure to like and subscribe, drop a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.